Government fails, the world's off its rails, leaders are whacked, democracy is under attack. It's time to get smart, folks, time to get real. Let's cut through the crap, tell us how you feel. Let's cue the talent, let's meet the host. Podcast by George.
Hello, hi, how are you? Welcome into another podcast by George, still under self-quarantine here, trying to figure this thing out, and I know everybody around the world is too. And it's not good. A couple of milestones just reached today as of this recording. In the United States, 50,000 deaths attributed to the coronavirus and 1 million infections, the official tally. Now, those numbers are all a little bit subject to interpretation because of the lack of testing here, particularly early on in the COVID-19 pandemic. We're not sure exactly what we've got, but whatever it is, it ain't good. And you've heard me on the podcast before. I tell folks, if you're trying to determine medically what this is and what you should do medically and what treatments are available for it and what the potential for a vaccine is and all of those types of things, go to the medical profession for that information. Don't get your perspective from a podcaster, or as I call it, a pontificating politician. Get it from the medical guys, and we've had some of them on the podcast. I hope you've enjoyed that and learned a little bit from it, as I have. And as far as what this thing is numbers wise, and man, this is all about the numbers and what the trend is and where we may be headed statistically, my advice would be get your information from a statistician. And that's what we're doing today. We're going to turn to the heartland. We're going to turn to Iowa State University. It has one of the top 20 statistical programs in the country up there. And those folks are taking a look at this, and in particular our guest. And it's Dr. Yomo Chu. He's up there with the statistical department at ISU, and he's got a model. You've heard about these models, but he's got one that's being referenced and used around the world, really, to determine what's happening and, most importantly, what's going to happen. Doctor, welcome to a podcast by George.
Hi, George. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's my great pleasure to talk to you and talk to the public.
Well, I got to tell you, I have some talents and skills. I'm still searching for them at this older age. One of them is not statistics. I'm a basic arithmetic guy. I remember I had to take an economics course in college, and my God, I didn't think I was ever going to get through that thing. So, but what I liked about your model is the basics, the fundamentals of it, even I can understand. And it's all based on this R value of 1. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so first of all, let me explain what is this R value is. So this R value called reproduction number is the average number of infections generated by one infected case through the whole process. So this person may get infected, and then after some days get diagnosed and confirmed, and then get treatment and recover. For over this whole course, several weeks, like on average, how many other people this infected case can generate. So that is the reproduction number. So this reproduction number is very important in the spread of the epidemic. So you can think that if this number is larger than 1, so which means that one people will cause more than one other persons to be infected. So then the spread of this epidemic will grow very fast, will exponentially grow. But if this number is smaller than 1, so that means that this epidemic is under control, and after some times, it will eventually go away. So if we keep this reproduction number smaller than 1.
Yeah. So as I looked at it and understood it, then if it's above 1, that means there's an infected person that has the ability, or the unfortunate ability, to give it to someone else. That is what causes the spread, obviously. And when I last looked at it, it looked like everywhere in the United States was above 1, and it's not just whether or not you're above 1, it's where you're trending. And there were some places in the world that had gotten below 1, correct?
Yes. So, for example, Korea is below 1, and China is below 1 after the outbreak, several weeks after the outbreak. And there are some other places is already below 1, and keeping it below 1. So for United States, so I just run so the latest data. So we have this daily data come every day. So I just run the model on the latest data. So let me tell you what I found for United States. So I have the result here. So for United States, so we are kind of on the borderline of 1. So in terms of the numbers, so we become below than 1 from April 8th. So that is about 2 weeks ago. So we start to become below than 1, but it's like around 0.9, 0.8. So right now we are like just right to the border of 1. So but slightly below than 1. So we would like, so if this epidemic is under control, so we want to keep that trend, make that reproduction number below than 1, so it will eventually go away.
And it has been trending steadily downward. Now, again, and I don't know if there would be a chart for this, but if you're looking at it, is it like a staircase ladder down? Is it a straight line down? What kind of a trend line is it?
Okay, so the trend line is starting from, so let me see. So it's peak. So the number peaks in the middle of March, and then from then it quickly goes down. So I think the effective, so the policy that the social distance is very effective. So it's quickly going down. But we keep in mind that this speed, it will not go in straight down as a straight line. So otherwise we will hit 0 very quickly. So it's not like that. So the marginal effect will gradually decrease. So it's like a curve that gradually decreasing. So that's a good thing. That as long as it's decreasing, it's a good thing.
I would caution everybody, now this is a reporting model. This is based on the data that goes into it, and that's what we're seeing come out of it. But that this is not a medical practitioner's model from this angle. I mean, it what goes down can go up again based on the data that comes into it. So we have been trending down. People thought that this would happen, but there are some reports from the medical community. There's every reason to believe that these reports are going to increase in the fall, and perhaps even before then, if people discontinue, for instance, the social distancing that you're talking about.
Yeah, so what I want to emphasize is that this model is based on historical data. So we keep tracking of the current data and historical data. But we, because this epidemic, so many factors, right, affect this epidemic. So it's hard for us to do prediction. So we can do some epidemic prediction, but it's so anything happening in the future is very hard to say. Yeah. So yes, it may. So from the epidemic point of view, it may come back in the fall. Yeah, but what we are providing is kind of the tracking and assessing the spread of this epidemic.
And based on the data that you've been inputting to date anyway, my understanding was you were expecting this perhaps to subside if everything remains similar to what you're currently looking at by the end of 2020?
Yeah, again, so that is, so if this trend continue, yeah, definitely, I think it's will end within this year. Yeah, but as I said, it's hard to tell for sure what will happen in the future. So yeah.
And our trend line has been declining. I mentioned that it can increase again. How about around the world now? Once it starts to decline, does it consistently decline in these other countries that you're monitoring, or have they seen some ups and downs in their trends?
Yeah, there could be up and down. So, for example, let me give you an example like Singapore. So Singapore controlled it very well in January and February. when the outbreak at that time was in China. So Singapore controlled it very well. So, but recently, so Singapore is in the increasing phase. So its reproduction number is increasing recently. So this is because of the imported case to Singapore, and it's hard to detect right away. So then it's build a community transmission in Singapore. So it's increasing. So it's they call the second wave. Yeah. So there are a lot of factors. So the numbers could go up again. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's hope to God that they don't, obviously, and that the trend line continues to go to the bottom, and that 2020 is the end of this. Although I don't know. I watched some of these news conferences. My God, I saw one the other day with the mayor of Las Vegas saying that she wants to reopen the hotels and casinos and convention centers in Las Vegas. I mean, that probably in the United States would be the biggest churn of international visitors that you could possibly have. I can't think of any other location that would have more of that than Las Vegas, Nevada, and she's all for it. And I'm like, oh God, there has to be some solution other than that. That's frightening. Well, let's talk about this a little bit, if you would, just on a personal basis. Your home is China. Do you keep in contact? What do you hear from there? And what's the model tell us about China?
So China right now. So first of all, so my hometown. So I came to U.S. like 10 years ago. In my hometown, so that is in the southwest part of China. It's not in the epidemic center. So they start to open the public places several weeks ago. Yeah, but people are still cautious. So people are still trying to keep distance away from each other. So when they go to public places and when they go to work. So people are cautious, but everything start to go back to normal. Yes.
Wow, that's great. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. And I asked some pretty fundamental, basic things. Is there anything else here in closing to kind of give you the last word about your model or the statistical data that you're seeing that folks could or should be interested in?
Yeah, so we get the data. So the source of the data is from online. So as we know that, for example, Iowa. So the Iowa government has released new infections, newly increased daily increased infections and recovers, data like that. So we get the data online, and there are also some other online repository that gather this data. So we cross-reference, so double-check the accuracy of the data, and then we run the model. So as I said, that we use this most current data to run the model and do the assessment. So I think that our model can tell us like the risk that we are currently in. So whether this R value is above 1, it's high above 1, or below 1, like close to 0. So that kind of give us so we know that the infection size is different from state to state, from country to country. But what we are calculating is kind of the speed of the spread. So how fast this spread will go, and whether this spread is slowing down. So this is what we are calculating.
Yeah, it's not just trajectory; it's velocity also. I mean,
Right.
I understand that part of it, and of course, the data being good data, as much testing as possible helps the data. The fact that you can get it within a week or two is good, and then of course, what you would want most of all as an individual looking at this, you'd want it as local as possible. We've got the worldwide data, we've got the United States data, and then we've got you're looking at the state of Iowa, and Iowa, is it pretty much trending in line with the United States at this point?
Yes, I also calculated the R value, the most recent R value for Iowa. So it's also around this borderline of 1. So the absolute value is like 1.2 something. Yeah, so we are towards the cutoff value of 1. Yeah, we are going in that direction. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Well, again, thanks for coming on. I feel kind of guilty that I can't pronounce your name the way that I would like you. Yomo Chu?
Yes, it's correct. It's very correct.
Yeah, good. Well, that's great. And
Yeah.
you
Very
know,
nice to talk with you, George. Yes.
yeah, well, it's wonderful that you can do this kind of work, that you not only can put the model together, but after being here for 10 years, you can come on a podcast and talk about
Yes.
it. Because honest to God, if I had to go to your home country, I'd probably take a right turn and end up in northern Siberia someplace. I don't know that I could
No.
I couldn't find my way across the world, let alone do a podcast. That's wonderful. Well, folks, that's it. Like I said, I'm glad to have him on there because really what this comes down to, it's all about the numbers. And statistics will tell you where we're headed, and it'll show you, of course, historically where we've been. But monitor. Now, if people want to take a look and kind of watch this model doctor, where would be the best place to look at it online?
Yeah, so we are writing a paper that will submit it. So after the paper is ready, we will post it online. And we are also thinking of build a website to put these R values for each state and for each country there. So and we update on a daily basis. So yeah, so that is something that we are constructing right now.
That's great. Well, if you like this podcast, folks, make sure that you share it, like it, follow it, subscribe to it on YouTube, and we'll try to keep this information coming and try to keep it as informative and somewhat entertaining as always on the podcast. With us today, Dr. Yomo Chu. He's up there at Iowa State University. Outstanding statistical department. As I mentioned, a lot of people that are around all the time, they don't think about it, but we're talking about one of the top 20 programs in the entire country. And they've got a great model, a method of following the coronavirus here in the USA and really for use around the world. That's going to do it. That's going to wrap it up. That's another podcast. Bye, George.